My name is Luke Hardy, and in this presentation I will look into the reasons why the VFL decided to build its own stadium, Waverley Park, in the late 1960s, and the reasons that led to its eventual closure in 1999. Waverley Park, located in the outer eastern suburbs of Melbourne, was the idea of Kenneth Luke, the VFL president at the time, who argued that the VFL needed its own ground in order to break its reliability on the MCC and MCG and allow the league to have more financial power through its own dedicated venue. In 1962, the league bought the land to build on, and 8 years later in 1970, Waverley Park officially hosted its first game. The construction of Waverley Park led to a huge shift in power between the league and the MCC/MCG. Prior to this, the MCC, in cahoots with the state government, had a stronghold over the league and were able to have most decisions made on their terms, particularly those surrounding game scheduling. With Waverley Park planned to have a capacity of 160,000 fans, this meant that the MCG no longer had the upper hand of being the only stadium in Melbourne to be able to host blockbuster games comfortably. This shift gave the VFL greater financial power and more leverage when it came to scheduling games, now having its own dedicated ground that could match the MCG's attendances. The MCC were forced to adhere to the league's requests or risk losing more host games for the MCG. Luke's arguments had been proven worthwhile, and the league now had greater control over the previously undisputed MCC. However, the success of the ground was not without its criticisms. A few notorious complaints of Waverley Park were its location, its poor infrastructure, and the lack of transportation options to and from the ground. The combination of these complaints meant that it was an effort to just attend games, which deterred many fans. This was made evident in the later years of its life, with the ground averaging less than half of its seated capacity throughout the 90s, and only being selected to host one final in its last 5 years in the league. As a Saints fan who attended games at Waverley Park during my younger years, what stood out to me the most was the often lackluster atmosphere, reminiscent more of a local football match than a league game, and the chaotic process of exiting the stadium. In the mid-1990s, a proposal was put out to sell Waverley Park and use the money to not only fund the remodel of the MCG's southern stand, which had been diagnosed with concrete cancer, but also to build a brand new 52,000 capacity stadium right in the heart of Melbourne. The contribution to the upgraded Great Southern Stand would mean the league now had equal leverage in the MCG, and as a result, the decision to sell Waverley Park was agreed upon. Whilst Waverley Park played an important role in the history of Australian rules football in Victoria and had plans to be one of the most iconic venues in the world, it was never developed into what it wanted to be, and inevitably the right decision was made by the AFL to sell. Still, it's hard not to wonder what could have been.